My name is Hansen. If you were from my family, they would say Hansen Wendlandt, but no one says that. They say Wendlandt. And my mother's maiden name was Fritz. So where do you think my family's from?
Deutschland.
Exactly, Germany, Deutschland. There's this other guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was German. This is a special week for him. It's a great name. Bonhoeffer was a pastor and a teacher. He wrote books about God in Germany. Great German name. He wrote books about God in the 30s and 40s, 1930s, 1940s. That's a hard time to write about real love, to stand up for real love. 1930s, 1940s in Germany. But he was committed to living like Christ, to listening to God's good news everywhere, and to spreading the peace of the kingdom, even where there seemed to be chaos. I think we all like to think that if we were there in Germany in the 30s and 40s, we would have the heart and the courage to stand up and do the right thing. But a lot of people didn't. Bonhoeffer did. He did not hide. He did not shrug his shoulders and say, well, what can we do? He did not stop conversations. He did not go along with everything that was happening. He spoke out against the Nazi regime by speaking up for God's love. Of course he did. Their evil was obvious. His faith was deep. He had to speak out or the stones would cry out. They told him to be quiet. Nope. He couldn't stay silent, so they put him in prison. And he kept talking. And he kept talking. They said, listen, we're going to kill you. Nope. He could not stay silent then until he could do everything he could do to silence their acts of evil. And so 74 years ago, this week, this very week, 74 years ago, they killed him. They killed Mr. Bonhoeffer. The Nazis made up this excuse for killing him. They said he was in this plot to assassinate Hitler, which wasn't true, except insofar as his voice, Bonhoeffer's voice itself, was such a powerful weapon against everything that they had stood for. His voice echoing God's word. 1912 years before that, in fact, we can be so precise. We can be so precise, we can say that it was on the last Sabbath before Passover, which on our calendar was Sunday, March 29th, in 33 of the Common Era. Jesus would enter Jerusalem with the children waving palm fronds and all this. He entered from his faith, don't we wish we had his faith, he entered from a sense of holiness, and for what God dreamed for. He had in his time spoken out so often against the religious hypocrisy at the temple. He hated when people stood in my place and said anything that was contrary to God's good will for the people. He had spoken up and railed against the political abuses of the Roman administration. Many people in that time were scared to talk about politics in their church, now too. But of course, Jesus wasn't scared. He could see their evil was obvious. He could see his faith was deep. He had to speak out. They told him to be quiet. No. The stones would cry out if he was quiet. They threatened to kill him. Okay, kill me. I won't shut up until I can do everything I can do to silence their acts of evil. And so you know what happened 2,000 years ago. Faith compels us to speak out against evil. Although I pray that none of you ever have the burden that those two men had to choose their voice or their life. I pray for your courage to speak louder when evil seems stronger. But God, may we never face a situation like this. May we never face a situation where people in our lives are in danger from the governing authorities. May we never face a situation, may the stones cry out if ever we are silent when women are treated as objects, when gay and lesbian and transgender friends are judged as lesser. May the stones cry out if we are silent when our black and brown and ethnic neighbors are systematically oppressed, or when the poor among us are stigmatized and blamed for their own struggles. May the stones cry out if we are ever silent about the people who God loves. At Jesus' entrance, the people of Jerusalem, they waved palms. Palms were a symbol of Jewish nationalism. It's kind of like we have eagles. So imagine if someone had, just like waving flags with eagles on them. That would be like, America, yeah. So this was their way to say, while being oppressed by a Roman authority, they waved palms to say, like, hey, we want to have control over our lives too. We're tired of it. We're tired of being pushed down. And I pray if we ever face powers that stand up for the things that God hates, I pray we have the strength from faith for faith to speak with words and actions against whatever injustice would never be in heaven as it is on earth. But I pray just as much that we never get wrapped up in evil for evil, that we never mirror the violence that we see, that we never get stuck in the chaotic battle for peace and love that darkens our own hearts. If it would have ended at Jesus, if it would have ended at Bonhoeffer, if it would have ended at Martin, if it would have ended at Matthew Shepard, or with all those, if it could be done with all the struggle we feel and see today, if only it could be ended. Jesus was stuck in chaos of his day, and he faced it without responding violently to people, without abandoning the soft soul of his grounded spirit. It's a miracle I pray for, that I can repeat and be guided by that idea. Bonhoeffer, stuck in the chaos of his day, he faced it without mirroring the violence he witnessed, without abandoning the soft soul of his grounded spirit. When it came to using his voice, Bonhoeffer knew how to speak up and when to listen. One of his books, published in 1939, while he was leading an underground, it had to be secret, an underground Christian seminary. And so he was writing to a lot of people who wanted to be preachers. So these are like, preachers tend to be people who want to talk a lot. They want to talk about good stuff. You're like, peace. So he's writing to pastors who are prepared every week to write something that somehow captures people's hearts, right? So they're focused on that. This is what he says about using his voice, and I excuse the masculine language from 80 years ago. He wrote, the first service that one owes to others in the fellowship in the church is listening to them. Just as the love of God begins by listening to his word, so the beginning of love for each other is learning to listen to them. Christians so often think they must always contribute something when they are in the company of others, that this is the one great service they're here to render. They forget that listening can be a greater service than speaking. Many people are looking for an ear that can listen. Who can no longer listen to his brother, can no longer listen to God either. That is the beginning of the death of the spiritual life. So Bonhoeffer, who knew more than any of us ever will, the power of speaking up, knew equally well the power of listening to each other. I doubt this is just my story, but my whole teenage years could be summed up as the struggle to find someone to listen to me. In my 20s, the reason I'm here now, I think, is because in my 20s, I found someone who would listen to me. And so in my 30s, I decided, okay, I need to learn how to do that. I need to learn how to listen. So in my 40s, I'm practicing it. So maybe one of these days, I'll get it right, how to listen. Bonhoeffer knew the power of listening to each other, but it's not just between us. It is for him, the power of listening, the power of silence. It is the deep strength of peace that comes from listening to the voice of creation. Maybe for you that sounds like inner wisdom. In quiet moments you hear. Maybe for you it is translated by the wild whisper of nature when Mother Nature herself tells you the things and the truth you need. Maybe you hear God's voice directly back. Whatever it is for you, however it comes to you, the ability to listen, the practice of silence is the grounding that gives us strength for all the chaos in our lives and the chaos in the world. Jesus went out in the mornings to the wilderness, not to church. Jesus had time for church to be with other people. But on his own spiritual journey, he went to the wilderness by himself to pray, to listen, to be silent. Some of you do that. But can you imagine what that was like? What was happening? What did Jesus hear when he sat and listened to the Spirit? What was it like for him? What was it like for other people who would meet him when he came back? The closest answer I have for that, Dan Rather, a while back, asked Mother Teresa. He said, what do you say during your prayers? It's a good question. Mother Teresa, what do you say during your prayers? And she said, I listen. And so Dan Rather's a good journalist, so he said, oh, you listen. What does God say? And she said, he listens. Chaos is inevitable in our lives. It is inevitable in this world. And so what strength might you have in knowing that the power of love itself listens to you? It might feel like no one else listens. It might feel like you have no power to solve anything. It might feel like the whole world is screaming at you, and it might seem like the only response you have is to scream back. But love itself sits with you. The embodiment of peace opens an ear. The source of hope offers a still small voice, a whisper of strength. May our silence